It's the Bitcoin Capitalist Show, and I have Jaime from Monterrey, Mexico right now. And we came across paths down in Paraguay, and he's a young guy, entrepreneur, kind of digital nomad, and he's already, making the circles, making all the right connections. And this guy, he's going to be a name to look out for in the future of kind of expats traveling around Latin America. Now, just tell me what you're up to, where you are now, and any travel plans in the future right now.
Yeah, right now I am in Monterrey, Mexico, which is like the second biggest city in Mexico right now, I think. And it's like the business capital of the country. It's my hometown. And my future trips will be going to Spain to get my citizenship. So, if, for example, if you have like a grandfather or something, or a father or something from Spain, you can get the citizenship in 1 year living legally in Spain.
Is that through like Ancestry?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow.
essentially.
Now, did you hear about Portugal?
Yeah, the golden visa
Yeah,
or
they
which?
ended the Golden Visa last week.
Yeah, yeah, they are ending it. In Spain, it's different because it's like a smaller pool of people that can access through ancestry.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much from what I understood was like Ireland and maybe Spain. Like, there's very few ancestry citizenships in Europe right now, and those were like the only two I kind of know of. And the Golden Visa was like one of the only ways, American with no relative ties to Europe could kind of sneak their way in, and they ended that. And now
Yeah.
they cited that they ended it because of foreigners driving up the price of real estate. But when you look at the numbers, it's like in the tens of thousands. It's not like a huge number of people. So why do you think they ended the Golden Visa? Because it
Um,
was widely popular and it was a huge boon for the Portuguese economy.
I think it's. I mean, I think it's a good program, for example, for the country. But at the end of the day, you are bringing too much people that have more money than the local population, so
Mm-hmm.
that could drive like the prices up. And at the end of the day, like nothing good lasts forever. It's the same with the Paraguayan residency program. It's the same thing that they change it at the last
Wait,
minute.
it's going to be interesting because like real estate has been going up everywhere because all the money printing, right? And it's like, and they're kind of tying it to all these foreigners coming up and driving. I think prices would have gone up regardless because of speculation and stuff. Now, what's going to happen when real estate finally goes down after this 11-year bull market? And that's the main asset of everyone, and that goes down, and they're going to be begging for foreigners, I think, in the future to come to these places and keep prices of real estate stabilized. And I could tell you, like right now, like just look, I was looking around in Paraguay. They have an extremely overvalued, real estate market. And like I went toward several apartment buildings my first trip down to Paraguay, and then I went back like 2 years later. They're all completely empty, and no one's renting, no one's buying, and the prices haven't moved.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these places are in real estate bubbles. And the other crazy thing is, I think there's like 4,000 or 5,000 real estate agents in the capital of Paraguay, Asunción. Like, there's like for every person looking, there's 5 realtors.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a common thing in Latin America because there's no regulations, so
yeah,
anyone can be like a real estate agent.
you don't have to take like a test or anything.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything, and most of those people are just trying to make some money on the side,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them are just really beginners. They don't really like help you with anything.
Now, do you have any residencies or second passports right now?
No, not really.
Now, why? Because you've been traveling down to Paraguay a lot. Why didn't you get your permanent residency while you were down in Paraguay?
Mainly because when I went down, I got famous in Paraguay, so there was a lot of distraction there, like bunch of
I forgot to tell the audience that you're a famous TikToker. He made a TikTok about uh,
Asuncion,
the
Paraguay.
culture and people of Paraguay, and it went extremely viral. And he He was a sensation down there. So I think that's why he keeps going back, because he's he's known now.
Yeah. So it was like too much distraction on one hand, and then there wasn't like a clear option for me to get the residency. Like there's no many information online, and lots of things you have to do it by yourself. And at the end of my stay, um, I met a girl that his mother was like a lawyer or something like that, worked for the government and shit like that. But it was going to be really quick, like the process. And I had to move to Uruguay for a bit.
Yeah.
And I decided not to go forward.
Okay. Now, I know they changed the residency laws where now, you're temporary for 2 years before you're permanent. And I know you're still kind of traveling down there a little bit. Are you interested in securing that still? Or now that they've changed it, it's just too much work and you're going to work on Spain?
I mean, in my opinion, like I like Paraguay, but I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, So
that's what I was thinking, because like when I went, it was just so easy, so straightforward. It's like I showed a college degree. I didn't even do the $5,000 deposit. I overpaid. I probably spent $3,500 on my attorney, but that's because I didn't know anyone down in Paraguay yet. And so, there's obviously other like law firms like, hey, we'll do it for $1,500, but it's all wire transfer. So I'm like, I'm going to get scammed if I go with a smaller firm. So I just went with a very big firm that, they represent Coca-Cola and stuff. So I didn't have to worry about any of that. And then I met friends down there. But now it's like, oh, you're temporary for 2 years. You got to go make extra trips now. It costs it's going to cost you a lot more money just in time and going down there, not necessarily money. And I think that's going to deter a lot of people. But the thing is Paraguay is still the #1 no-show residency, because Panama ended their program and now you have to buy real estate. And as far as I know, it's probably one of the only no-show residencies in Central and South America right now.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. But for me right now, it's not that much because, for example, most of my business is in Mexico anyways. So I have to be here. And if I went on and do the processing for the citizenship in Spain, I don't think I can. I don't know if I can like have some to be taxed on Paraguay and Mexico and then Spain. I think it's like too much confusion for me right now.
Okay. So like every expat right now, Latin America is like, I feel like everyone's in Mexico, talking about Mexico, all the cities, like, Panama really went south. Although there's a lot of expats there, it's known as an expat place. And then with the crazy COVID lockdowns and their economy going south and the protests shutting down everything, a lot of those people left, and a lot of them have gone to Mexico. And everyone's raving about Mexico. I mean, I've been, but I haven't been to these, these expat cities and places they're talking about. So I'm like, it's on my to-do list. Why is Mexico just becoming so much more popular than, all these other, Latin American destinations right now?
I think it's because of the proximity to the USA, and mostly I think it's social media, because before social media, like TikTok or Instagram or whatever, people thought that Mexico was some shithole country, and we were with cactuses and donkeys and narcos and shit. So it was more like a beach destination, but people didn't went to the cities. And now that they see that the cities are like nice cities, we have nice zones and whatever, they are posting that on social media, and I think it's just like getting full.
Is me as like an ignorant American, like I've only been like, when I thought of Mexico, I thought of like, I'm in Southern California, so I would think of like
like some barrio or something.
Tijuana, Cabo San Lucas, and Cancun. And I didn't know, and I just thought that these big cities like Mexico City were like no-go zones because of crime and all that stuff. So I've never really thought about it. And then the last 2 or 3 years, like everyone I know that's gone to Mexico City and all these places just rave about it, and like, you have to go. So that's the next, on my stop. And it's just, it's just, I think because it's bigger, it's just attracting a lot of people out of these smaller little expat countries like Panama and Paraguay. People want a bigger scene. I feel like more people, more things to do, and a lot of them are going to Mexico. Now, do you know anything about the Mexican residency process?
I think it's one of the easiest ones. You just have to prove that you have like $2,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
But I am Mexican, so I don't really know
Yeah,
like.
it's like obviously you haven't applied because you're Mexican, but I know a lot of these well-traveled expats are adding Mexico to the residency list, and I've also heard a couple people doing Honduras recently. I'm kind of waiting for because I'm a big Bitcoiner. I've been waiting for El Salvador to come out with a clear-cut permanent residency program because I know they're trying to, attract a lot of Bitcoiners and foreign wealth to help build up that economy and like Bitcoin City and stuff like that. But like, it's very convoluted. I only heard like rumors like, oh, if you're kind of connected and you're going to go spend X amount of money, you might get residency or citizenship. But if they came out with like a friendly nations permanent residency in El Salvador, I think it would blow up. And I'm just curious because like all of these countries are closing the doors on these residencies. I'm like, if one of them just breaks away and does a simple, clear-cut permanent residency program, I think it will attract so many people and so much money right now because with working from home and the digital nomad, everyone wants to go south and live somewhere cheaper and just work on the beach. And I'm just waiting for one of these countries to get their stuff together and do it.
Yeah, that's why Mexico is so attractive because they don't really. I mean, on one hand, like the residency, getting the residency there, it's easy, and on the other hand, they don't really enforce the immigration laws here.
Yeah.
So a lot of people stay either from, especially if they are like from first world countries.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like there's some secret theories going around that the government doesn't want to fuck around with like European foreigners or Americans just because the relations they have with these countries.
No, it makes sense, and
they're bringing money and shit, so like
they're bringing money, and it's like, as you know, a lot of these countries are doing very poorly economically, and at some point, when are they going to go for their own interests and allow foreigners and companies to come in instead of bending to either U.S. pressure, European pressure, and like I kind of feel like the Golden Visa thing in Portugal was more like EU, just like they come up with a real estate thing because that's popular with people. But like you look at Cyprus was the back door into Europe. I had a friend that got the citizenship there, and then it gives you access to all of Europe. I mean, pretty much the only passport I know you can buy right now is Malta, and that's going to cost you over $1 million investment. But for me, I'm like, I think Europe's not a great place right now with all the stuff going on in Eastern Europe. I'm like, I really think the Southern Hemisphere is going to be the ticket in the future if anything goes south, and that it's a great plan B. Now, what are you doing for work, like digitally, and what are your plans for the future?
Right now, I'm doing e-commerce growth for other brands, and I'm launching a couple of stores here in Mexico. So those are like my main plans, and maybe launch like some info products for the public.
So I have a background. I did e-commerce, and I was in that whole dropship thing. I had like 50,000 products on Amazon, and I've always thought about doing the e-commerce thing in like down south. But like the problem is like, how do you deal with shipping because they don't have like UPS, and like does Mexico have like a delivery system, or are you selling like digital products online?
No, it's physical products. Mexico has a good system of logistics right now. They have FedEx Ops, and they have like DHL. They have every big company, and they deliver like nationwide. Like there's no issue with that. Like right now, it's getting just better, and there's more competition and more people getting like their shipment, their products shipped more faster.
Okay, yeah, because like when I look at Paraguay and Panama, like they have zero shipping infrastructure.
Yeah, it's very different because, for example, with those countries, just the capital is like developed and all the countries like left to the dust, especially like, for example, Paraguay or Panama, or for example, Costa Rica is like kind of the same thing. The difference with Mexico is that it has Mexico, for example, Mexico and Brazil, they both have a big market, so there's more willingness to invest in those markets, because there's a shit ton of people.
Yeah, pretty much like you ship stuff and it goes to like a mail center or something, pick up, but like no one just has this like next day delivery to their doorstep like we have it in the United States. Now, have you ever heard of the company Uline?
Uline?
Yeah, I think they're in Monterey.
I don't think so.
Okay. They're in our industry back in the United States, and I know they were making a move in Mexico, so I was just curious.
But yeah, the shipping here it's good. Here, and I think in Brazil, I think it's also really good. But for example, countries like Colombia or Argentina, the problem is that the people don't have a lot of money, and also they have high taxes, especially in Argentina. So it's not very attractive. If you want to set up a business, for example, in Latin America, I think Mexico is the best option for the population and the GDP share, like the money that people have and the taxes. But other countries in Latin America, it will be way harder.
Now, if some expats listening, what is the number one city you would recommend someone to visit in Mexico?
I think
if they wanted to go rent Airbnb for a month and have some fun, where should they go in Mexico?
I think Guadalajara is the best city.
That's what I've heard. I have a friend that's living there. No, that's interesting. Now, what?
I mean, it's kind of it's getting a little bit more dangerous because of some like instability in the region. But for example, Mexico City, it's really good, but it's expensive, and there's a lot of Americans there. So it could be like a good start if you are afraid of like coming to Mexico.
I saw some of these other blogs and stuff really pushing like Mazatlan and stuff like that. I'm like, isn't Mazatlan like extremely dangerous?
No, Mazatlan is also a really. I think Mazatlan is the best spot, the best beach spot in Mexico.
Really?
Mazatlan, yeah, because the food is amazing. It's a lot of Mexican culture. They have like some really nice zones, and it's not dangerous at all. It's really safe. Yeah, okay. It is in Sinaloa. It's located in Sinaloa, but Sinaloa it's already like controlled by the cartel, So
yeah, so mostly, there's not problems. There's not like a rival, war happening. It's kind of
mostly like the most dangerous states here in Mexico is because they are fighting the plaza. That's how it's said in Spanish. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when they are like fighting each other, yeah, it's a mess. But if it's already controlled by someone, then they don't really care. And at the end of the day, like that's where I tell all the foreigners that come here, like you are hardly going to get into problems if you don't do sketchy things, like if you don't buy drugs, if you don't go to strip clubs, if you don't are fighting with people on the street or something, like you are not getting mobbed.
No, I've solo traveled a lot of these countries, and I've never had a problem. But like, it's just like I'm from California. You make the wrong turn in LA, you're gonna have problems. But you just gotta be smart, and you gotta know there's bad areas of every country, and there's bad people in every country, and you just gotta be cognizant of what you're doing. And you kind of it's safer to move in groups. It was weird. So I went to Cuba one time, and I knew nothing about Cuba, and I thought it was gonna be. I'm like, I started doing my research right before. I'm like, oh man, it's like really poor. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be hella dangerous. My girlfriend at the time got super sick, and I just started walking the streets, having a beer, and I went down some random streets. No one messed with me, and then not only that, but like people would just come up to me, start talking to me. Because they've been so isolated there, and it's like I found out that like if you mess with the tourists there, it's like
that penalty.
Oh man, they lock you away and throw the keys. It was just no one would even disrespect you there. It was the craziest thing. I felt extremely safe when I was in Cuba. Now, of all, what is your favorite? You're from Mexico, so we can't put Mexico on there. Where's your favorite place to go in South America?
Um,
What's your favorite city?
I am born in the city, but even more, but Buenos Aires by far.
That's mine. I was just going to say that because for me, I've done a lot of traveling in the last 3 months, and I really thought about it. I'm like, what city, if I had to live in year round, could I live in? And I'm from Orange County in Southern California. I mean, I live in one of the best places in the world. It's like year round good weather. I live on the beaches, beautiful people. It's a great spot. But so I have a lot, like if I want to look at when I'm looking at other cities, I was like, it's got to be pretty good, right? Coming where I'm from. And the only place that kind of checks all the boxes is Buenos Aires for me. And there's places like if I had to do, these people are doing these tax residencies where they're like staying in one place 4 months and they move around. I could live in Panama part-time. I could live in Paraguay part-time. But like both those places, if I had to live like year round, there's just not enough to do and it would get annoying. Like Paraguay is great, beautiful, friendly people, but like there's not a lot going on. So it's like, it's great for a couple weeks.
Yeah, or maybe a couple months, but after that, yes, you just
and
realize that it's a shithole.
Paraguay is a small town. It's just like everybody knows everybody there.
Yeah.
It gets old. There's like, one mall. Everyone sees everyone at that freaking mall, the Galleria. But Buenos Aires is a big city. Like you wouldn't run into the same person twice. Great restaurants, great bars. What's that one place? Advent Garden is awesome, where the train goes over your head. Yeah, and they have all the bars, and restaurants, and stuff. Now, I've only been in the city. Have you gone south of Buenos Aires, kind of to the countryside? Because that looks really awesome too.
Yeah, I went to Bariloche, which is like some like the Swiss Alps, to say like that, of Argentina, because they have the Patagonia, Patagonia, Argentina, and like the mountain range. What's the name? I don't remember the name of the mountains. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember it, but yeah, they have like the mountains, and you can do skiing and shit. And they have like some German buildings and beer, so it's like very like Germanic theme.
Yeah.
Like
so my bucket list, I want to go like south in Argentina, and I also want to do that in Chile. So I just went on my last trip. I was in Santiago, and Santiago is a beautiful. Have you been before?
No.
Okay. So Santiago is like, the backdrop is one of the most beautiful cities. It's like in this mountain range. Their infrastructure, it's
Andes
not
Mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Andes Mountains is beautiful. It was super nice out. And their infrastructure, it was like Buenos Aires, where it has the great design stuff, but like the last 5 years, the country has just been run into the ground. Nothing's been, kept up, and there's graffiti everywhere. And I thought it was going to be a super safe, clean city. It was very dirty, and like I actually felt a little unsafe in the capital. But everyone I talked to was like, you got to go south. And once you get out of there, like all the, it's the great outdoors, and there's unlimited, backpacking, heading up on the mountains and stuff like that. So like, I want to go south in Chile. I want to go south in Argentina. Now I saw that you were in Uruguay, and
oh yeah,
Punta del Este has been on my bucket list for a long time. But everyone I talk to that's living down South America says it's overrated. So what do you think about that?
I think it's one of the best songs that I ever been. Like I really like
so all these haters are wrong that Punta del Este is overrated.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of overrated in the sense that it's too pricey. Like it's Miami prices there, especially in the high season. Yeah, it's really expensive because all the rich Argentinians and Uruguayans go there. So yeah, it can become expensive, but the vibe of the place is just wonderful. They call it Monaco of the South.
It looks really like relaxed beach vibe party. Now, was there a lot of partying there, or was it more like, hey, just go to the beach and have a cocktail?
It was both, to be honest. There was not a lot of partying because It was not high season yet, but you could feel like the vibe. But it's more about partying in like December and June, when it's like when
Okay.
Argentinians are in their vacations.
Would you recommend Airbnb in there or getting like a hotel? What'd you do?
I think there's better deals in Airbnbs than hotels, from what I seen, from what I
Yeah.
saw.
Well, it's
But it's
crazy.
beautiful. The only thing is that it's too expensive sometimes. Like you eat with like $40, like an average meal.
I mean, it's for me. I'm from California. That's cheap.
Yeah,
Like,
but I mean, if you compare it to like other parts of Latin America,
yeah,
like
yeah. No.
bro, with that you're feasting in Buenos Aires, for example.
When I came, because most of my traveling, because I got my permanent residency first in Panama, and I've been going to Panama for years. So most of my experience was like of living has been in Southern California and Orange County, which is one of the most expensive places in the U.S., and then going to Panama. And Panama's on the dollar and is very expensive. So like I
Yeah,
never had that like, oh, where this is cheap, until I went to Paraguay and I was like, oh my god. Like, and I didn't know the currency conversion. And I went, the first meal I went, this guy at my hotel invited me to a really nice steak dinner. And I didn't have any currency yet. So I used my card and I thought it was going to be $100 meal. And it was like $18, like when I saw the conversion. And this was like a 4-course meal, tomahawk, everything. And I
yeah,
was like,
dude. Like Ogaucho
literally, that's
was,
like that. It's like fast food prices to eat at the nicest restaurants in Paraguay. So whenever
yeah,
I'm there, and Paraguay has unbelievable restaurants. So whenever I'm there, I'm eating out every freaking meal. And you'll never eat so much steak. When I come back, I can't eat any more steak because it's like I just ate like a tomahawk every night for dinner.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I get it. When you're traveling around, you get used to those prices, and then you go somewhere. Um, now, do you know you've never thought about getting like an Uruguayan residency? Because I know they have a program, but I think you have to live in the country.
yeah. I wanted first to see how was the country, and I wouldn't live there, to be honest, like in Uruguay.
Well, a lot of people say that the capital of Montevideo is very boring. There's nothing to do, is what I've heard. And
Yeah,
did you explore the city?
yeah. It's very boring and it's very decadent. Like, for example, people think that Buenos Aires it's like a mess because the economy, but really Buenos Aires it's way cleaner and better than Montevideo, because Montevideo is like small, it's pricey. There's a lot of like social justice warriors there. Like you see some blue hair people there and shit, and you see,
That's weird you just said that, because I was talking to someone else that lives there and they were telling me that the capital is like a bit dangerous and we're trying to tell me where to stay. I'm like, Uruguay is like, isn't it just this small rich country? And it's kind of,
yeah,
so
no,
it gets a little dangerous in that capital.
yeah, and there's a lot of homeless and people like smelling weed,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like dirty. Yeah, I don't really like. And for the prices, it's like, nah, bro. Like with this money, I will be living really well on Asuncion or Buenos Aires.
It's just Americans are so used to living in America and they don't know what else is out there, and they don't know how well, like if you're making 80 90 grand in California, you're like destitute, you could just go down to some of these countries, be renting a mansion, just living large. And I think a lot of people, there's so many misconceptions and are scared. And like I remember I went to Colombia a couple years ago and it was right after the first Narcos came out, and everyone's like, what are you doing? Is it dangerous? And I was like a bit nervous. And that's all old news. And like I had an unbelievable time. I never felt I was in danger. Everyone was super nice. And there's so many misconceptions. And like just like when I've been going to Panama for years, all my friends back in Orange County are like, oh, like it's this third world country. And I would show them pictures. And if Panama was like a city in the United States, it would be like the third largest skyline. Their skyline is just incredible. It's all skyscrapers, modern. People, when I show them pictures, they can't believe that's Panama. And I think kind of Americans have this thing like America is great, and it's like there's a lot going on outside the United States, and you can what you're barely making rent and doing all this stuff. You could go down there and there's places like Paraguay, and you could live a completely different life and change the quality of your life if you go down there. And another interesting thing is like when I went to Buenos Aires, all the Paraguayans and stuff like that were telling me how dangerous Argentina was. And everyone I talked to they were really psyching me out about Argentina. Like even Americans are like, oh, we got robbed, we got this. And all the Paraguayans is really dangerous. You have to watch yourself. I've been like 4 times now by myself, walked around everywhere, and I run a lot. So I just go running by myself. I've never had even a bad interaction there.
Yeah, me neither, to be honest. Like, I was walking at like 3 or 4 a.m. in Buenos Aires and nothing happened.
I've wandered around late night, running around during the day, been all over. I've never had a bad interaction there, and it was weird because everyone I talked to before that was telling me to, really psyched me out and like, hey, you got to be careful, and made me nervous about going by myself there. But I think Buenos Aires is one of the most underrated cities in the world, and because of the 100% inflation happening,
I mean, right now it's getting crowded, like really crowded.
People are starting to figure it out.
Yeah, they say that it's the next Mexico City. It's the next city to blow up.
No, and it's great because if you have dollars, your conversion is great there, and like eating out, all that stuff's extremely inexpensive. The real estate's not overpriced. I always was talking to my friend that lives there. I'm like, if they figured out their currency or they somehow adopted, Bitcoin, I was like, that place would be like just a world-class destination because once people find out about it, it's like a European city in South America. And as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the only cities that's like a European city in South America. Everywhere else is like, not up to that standard.
Yeah.
So now, what do you think the future holds in the future economy? Do you think we're going into a recession? What are your general ideas of where we're headed and what's going to happen?
I think like Latin America wise, because I don't know much about the United States. I mean, I think the United States is like too big to have like a bad recession. But for example, in the case of Latin America, I think everyone is going to shit, but Mexico, to be honest. Like there's like with the left winning wing socialists that they've been electing in Argentina and Brazil and pretty much every country in South America, the currencies are going to shit, and there's like there's going to be a lot of devaluation in the currencies. So I think like the only economy that it's going to be strong is Mexico.
Yeah, because if you look at it, every currency is tied to the dollar, and as the U.S. prints more money, all these developing country currencies go down. My kind of idea is I think that the dollar is going to expand and Bitcoin is going to expand because if if I'm in Argentina or Chile and you have the local currency, I want dollars and I want, you might not know about Bitcoin yet, but you want to get out of your local currency into a stronger currency, and no one wants to hold those currencies. Through my business right now, like Panama, it's on the dollar, and Paraguay surprisingly has a very stable, one of the most stable currencies in South America. But I also do business in Costa Rica. What's happening in Costa Rica right now is their currency is all of a sudden devaluing like crazy right now. No one wants to hold the colones, the local currency, but the dollar is very prevalent there because it's almost like a Panama where there's a lot of dollars.
Yeah.
And people are dumping because they have access because there's a lot of dollars on. People are dumping the local currency like crazy. And like right now, because I get paid in both, when you go to a bank right now and you want to convert it, they're charging huge fees to get out of the local currency into dollars right now. And and especially when there's a viable option like that, people are just jumping ship. So I think we're going into a recession, and it's like the U.S. has all this welfare and stuff where, hey, they can send out checks, we can print money, and we can bail everything out, right? But like, you're in, Paraguay or Argentina, no one's sending you a check. All of a sudden your income goes down 50%. There's no unemployment like we have here. There's no social infrastructure. So it really goes south I think it's really going to go south in these developing countries because they don't have the welfare and safety net that the U.S. has. Where hey, you lose your job, oh, you're getting paid for 99 weeks, so you can get back on your feet. Where it's like, I don't know, does Paraguay have unemployment insurance? I think like if you just lose your job, you lose your job. Like you're really paycheck to paycheck, and you're really depending on income from what you're doing. So
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, Jaime. Thanks for talking. We'll have you back on again.
Thanks
And
for your
I'm
time.
sure people will have some more questions for such an international traveler. Now, when are you going to Spain to get that citizenship? Because you're going to I'm sure people want to find out about that too.
Probably in October of this year or January.
Okay.
Depending on how my business is going.
Yeah, no, everyone's kind of up in the air. I'm looking at, because I'm a little bit Armenian, and I was trying to do the Armenian citizenship by descent. But I went to the embassy in California, and they didn't like the documents I have. So maybe if I go out there, I can get my citizenship there. But all right, man. Thanks for the time. We'll talk again.
Yeah. See you. Thanks.